Okay, this one comes from Evolution Kakume. Evolution Kakume. Tell us about your students, how your students perceive you or interact with you. That could be a whole nother segment, but in short, they like me, I love them. Some of them love me, some of them hate me. That's that. I'll have to get into that one in a whole nother, that could be a whole nother segment, but it's cool. Tell us about how the community and neighbors perceive you or interact with you. Well, I've lived in several different places since I've been doing the Japan thing for about 10 years now. And every place is a little different, but overall it's just about the same. I have people that are very shy around me. I have people that are afraid of me from most times. And, you know, but it's my choice. I choose to look this way. And I like it, and some people are really into it. The one big difference I'll tell you though with Tokyo and Fukuoka is when I lived in Tokyo, people would see me, fathers and their kids, and the kids would be like, "Whoa, what the?" And they didn't know what to make out of me. But the parents would always be like, "Kakui, nah, he's cool, he's a cool dude." Like, nah, this is nice. And so the parents were really into me. But out here, where I live now, it's a lot different. Very shy and shyer. And sometimes the kids will just start crying. And the parents just don't do anything about it. So sometimes they tend to act more like I'm a nuisance to their day or whatever. So at times, I've seen parents disciplining their kids and talking about how a bad man is going to come and get them or something, and I happen to turn around the corner and they blame it on me. Have you made a lot of Japanese friends, or do you find that it's hard to establish meaningful friendships out in Fukuoka? I have a very small circle of friends. I think, yes, it's much harder out here to actually find friends, and especially what I do now compared to being a university student in Tokyo, it's even that much harder. Most of my coworkers are married or have some sort of relationship, and you know, they just don't have the time to go out. My best friend lives out here in Fukuoka, and I used to see him more when I was traveling here to Fukuoka, because it was more of a reason. I don't know exactly the deal, but it's more of a reason to see somebody when they're traveling and be around somebody when they're traveling opposed to when they're living. And so that, that kind of sucks, the difference between traveling and living. But it takes time. I've gotten more and more friends, and I've gotten closer to some people out here, but it definitely is a lot harder out here because people are just generally shyer. What can you do? Now, the one thing I will add in terms of making friendships with people is there's a big difference between having a friend that's a foreigner and having a friend that's Japanese. Now, let's talk about the gaijin first, okay? It's a little hard to make friends with other foreigners, generally because a good amount of foreigners, for whatever reason, have come out here and live out here because of whatever sort of social problem or socially inept in their own hometown. You see it all the time, and other foreigners talk about those other foreigners, but you can see that they've had some sort of problem in their own home country, and that's why they choose to live out here. So it's very hard to actually communicate with them. I run into it all the time, and I'm very superstitious and careful of just kind of meeting new foreigners that live in Japan. It takes some time for me to really try to open up to them, unfortunately. But I give it my best. Now, talking about being friends with Japanese people, now that's just as equally tricky, because some some Japanese people are very friendly with you, and they basically want to get to know you, but they're really just looking for a free English lesson, and that sometimes is very hurtful for a lot of people. Other people, it works perfect because they're looking for a free English lesson, and then you might be looking for a free Japanese lesson, so that works out very well. Other times when you start to see where you can actually make money off of that, you don't want to give away your services for free. And the moment you shut them down about that, they start to disappear. And so they weren't really looking to be your friend for the most part, a real friend. Some Japanese people I know particularly only want to have one or two foreign friends just so they can take a photo of you and a photo with you so they can show their other Japanese friends. so it's very difficult sometimes to make friends. Generally the best Japanese friends that I have come across are the ones that have actually spent time outside of Japan and lived in another country, Australia, America, for 2 or 3 years, so that they kind of have this a bit of an understanding of what it feels like to live abroad and to be in another country where you can't speak another language. And you know, most of my friends back home in Los Angeles, even before I first came to Japan, are Japanese. So it's worked out for me well, but if you're coming out here, I would say to be careful about that sort of stuff. Do you ever see other gaijin in jobs not related to teaching? Perhaps things like owning a business, restaurants, stores, etc., or even service jobs like restaurants or retail. Yes, there are gaijin out here that do have other jobs other than teaching English. Now, are they decent jobs? It depends on the person. If they can survive on that type of amount of money that they make hourly, but you know, generally the other jobs that I see foreigners doing are the restaurants, dishwashing, cleaning, working maybe in the background of a hotel or something. And there is a smaller case where I do see people doing digital design, working on video games, which is pretty cool. And that's something that the earlier question asked about, that you really got to try and get that through some sort of other hookup internationally or whatever the case may be. So there's opportunities out there, you just got to look for it. That's pretty much the deal. So the one thing I will point out is that if you have a passion or some sort of hobby, you can turn that into some sort of a job or a career, albeit maybe a little part-time. My friend's husband is actually a very fancy, I don't even know how to pronounce the word, but a fancy pastry chef in the Hilton, and he just really worked at it and decided that this is what he wants to do. So he does that on a very daily basis now. I have a lot of friends who DJ actually, and as you guys might know, coming out here, that was one of my biggest hobbies that I was doing while I was a student, and then it just started to change a bit. But I just completed a couple of DJ sets for some people to do recently for a summer performance. And what I'd like to do in the future personally is to really start playing at events and such, just small time type gigs and such, but it just is a little difficult. It interferes with my schedule to be out until 3 a.m. in the morning, and there are no trains after that time, so I don't get home until 8 o'clock, and then I got to go to work at 9. So this is a little bit of a difficulty of mine, managing schedules here, but it's definitely something I'd like to do in the further future. But like I said, you can, if you have some sort of passion or something, you can find the right people to make that happen as a job as well. It just takes a lot of time, and it will not support your visa. Alright guys, that's it. That's the first edition of our Ask Akasan segment. Yeah. Maybe I'll try next time not to drink as much, but the questions were cool. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to just hit me up here. Leave them in the comments below, and I will get back to them as soon as possible. Until then, take care. Bye.